This is the reading for chapter 12, lesson 3, precipitation. There's a little section on cloud seeding you can read on your own. We're going to start on page 429. What are the common types of precipitation? Suppose you could control the weather. If you wanted to rain, you would have to get the water from somewhere. Water evaporates from every water surface on Earth and eventually falls back to the surface. From the puddles in your street, from the oceans, from your swimming pool, from your body and the trees. Precipitation is any form of water that falls from clouds and reaches Earth's surface. It is a vital part of the water cycle. In warm climates, precipitation is almost always rain. In colder regions, it falls as snow or ice. Common types of precipitation include rain, sleet, freezing rain, snow, and hail. That's important. They put a little star by that in your book, that key fact. Rain, the most common kind of precipitation is rain, as shown in figure 1. Drops of water are called rain if they are at least 0.5 millimeters in diameter. Precipitation made up of smaller drops of water is called drizzle. Do you guys know the difference? Precipitation, even smaller, is called mist. You guys know about mist? Awesome. Measuring rain. What if scientists need to measure how much rain has fallen? An open-ended tube like the one on the picture on the bottom measures how water falls. So the open-ended tube collects rain. It's called a rain gauge. The amount of rain is measured by dipping a ruler into the water or by reading on a scale. For rainfall to be measured accurately, the rain gauge may have a funnel at the top that collects 10 times as much rain as the tube alone would without it. The depth is easier to measure to get the actual depth of rain. It's necessary to divide by 10. So that's a whole bunch of information we didn't need, but they collect the water and they measure how much has fallen. We're going to turn to page 430 and 431. There's just a couple examples of, it breaks them all down. There's freezing rain. Look at those little cherries. On a cold day, raindrops can sometimes fall as liquid water, but freeze when they touch a cold surface. This kind of precipitation is called freezing rain. We do not like that on our streets when we're driving. Snow. You probably know that snowflakes have an endless number of different shapes and patterns, many with 6 sides or branches. A snowflake forms when water vapor in a cloud is converted, so changed directly into ice crystals. Snowflakes often join together into large clumps of snow in which the crystals are hard to see. They like to get together and come down in little clumps. There's hail. I'm not sure if you've seen these little ice cube things come out of the sky. They're not very pleasant. A hailstone is a round pellet of ice larger than 5 millimeters in diameter. If you cut a hailstone in half, you could see layers of ice, like the layers of an onion. So it forms in layers. Hail forms only inside cumulonimbus clouds during thunderstorms. We read about that yesterday. A hailstorm starts as an ice pellet inside a cold region of cloud. Strong updrafts carry the hailstorm up through the cold region many times. So it's coming down and it gets carried back up. And it's coming down and it gets carried back up. So it keeps like getting put in the freezer. A hailstone, strong updrafts carry it. Each time the hailstone goes through the cold region, a new layer of ice forms around it. Eventually, the hailstorm becomes heavy enough to fall to the ground. Because hailstones can grow large, hail can cause damage to crops, to buildings, and vehicles, and probably people if you're standing out there, right? Sleet, sometimes raindrops fall through a layer of air that's cold. So just a section of air is cold. And the freezing point of water. As they fall, the raindrops freeze into solid particles of ice. Ice particles are smaller than 5 millimeters in diameter. They're called sleet. So hail is bigger than sleet, but they're kind of the same freezing stuff coming out of the sky. We talk about measuring snow. We could do that ourselves. Rain is not the only kind of precipitation meteorologists measure. Have you ever walked through a large snowstorm and wanted to know exactly how much snow has fallen? Snowfall is usually measured in two ways. You can use a ruler, a measuring stick, or by melting collected snow and measuring the depth of the water. That seems like a lot of extra work. On average, 10 centimeters of snow contains about the same amount of water as 1 centimeter of rain. However, light, fluffy snow contains far less water than heavy, wet snow. And we know that because we've had snow and you can feel the difference in them. We can turn to page 432. And this is what are the causes and effects of floods and drought. So we have this section and one on the next page and we'll be finished. In September 2008, just 3 years after Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Gustav blasted the coasts of Louisiana and Mississippi. Lakes and rivers, they overflowed. The results were severe flooding. A flood is an overflowing of water in a dry area. Flood caused by Gustav, fortunately, were not devastating as those caused in Katrina. 100,000 homes and businesses were destroyed, along with many bridges and highways. Causes and effects, not all floods are severe as those caused by a hurricane. Small or large, many floods occur when the volume of water in a river increases so much that the river overflows its channel. Think of pouring extra water into your glass. It's going to flood the table. As rain and melting snow add more water, a river gains speed and strength. So the more water is added, the more powerful it is. A flooding river can uproot trees and pluck boulders from the ground. It can even wash away bridges and buildings and people. People who live near rivers try to control floods with dams and levees. A dam is a barrier across a river that may redirect the flow of the river to other channels, so it pushes it in other directions, or store floodwater so they can release it slowly. So they'll collect it in a reservoir and then they can slowly release it out so it doesn't flood through anything. A levee is an embankment built along a river to prevent flooding of the surrounding land, so they build it up. People sometimes strengthen levees with sandbags or stones and concrete. But powerful floods can sometimes break through dams and levees, totally normal. We also have droughts, which is the opposite of a flood. It's very dry. So a drought, if you went away for a month and no one was around to water your plants, what would happen? Death. That would probably die from lack of water. A long period of little scarce rainfall or dry weather is known as a drought. A drought reduces the supplies of groundwater and surface water. A drought can result in a shortage of water for homes and businesses. We talked before that I have a well, so if it's very dry where I live, I'm not going to have a lot of groundwater to use for the house. Causes and effects of droughts. Droughts are usually caused by dry weather systems that remain in one place for weeks or months at a time. Long-term droughts can devastate a whole region. Look at a desert, dry forever. Droughts can cause crop failure. A drought can even cause famine in places where people must grow their own food. Streams and ponds dry up and people and animals suffer. People can prepare for droughts in several ways. When the dry conditions occur, they can conserve water, so save it. Farmers can grow drought-resistant plants, so plant carefully cacti that have been bred to withstand dry conditions. By practicing water and soil conservation, people can ensure that when droughts do occur, they'll be prepared for the effects. That's important. That is the end of this lesson.